I'm very, very happy that we have Nico here with us, who promised to get through 70 slides in half an hour. And from experience, I know that Nico is the one who can manage to do that while still feeling relaxed and calm. It's always a pleasure to see you, Nico. It's always great to hear your presentations, and I'm very much looking forward to this presentation. I saw a 10-minute session of that on data minutes. I assume it was the same content, but just a little bit faster. No, we'll try our best to challenge you with questions and thoughts and whatever we got for you. So, Nico, thanks for joining us today, and stage is yours. Looking forward to what you have to say.
All right. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I assume that the key phrase is, can you see my screen, will be answered positively. Thank you, Marcus. And this session is has this funny name, etc. But I would love to do more, even though I have a lot of slides. I want to do this a little bit freestyle, and with the purpose that all of you who are attending this session, and if you're viewing the recording, you will not have this opportunity, but let's make sure that you get the value out of it. You get out of this hour and 10 minutes with the new knowledge and better understanding of this wonderful product. So my name is Niko Neugebauer. I'm a senior program manager at the Azure SQL product group at Microsoft. And I have no, like, whatever that thing is called. I'm just another data professional who happened to enjoy way too much Microsoft data platforms that after many years I joined a company. So my name is rare enough. If you put something like my name and the word SQL or data, you should be able to find me. Feel free to connect, follow whatsoever. Agenda. I want to make sure that we are all aware what Azure SQL MI, SQL Managed Instance is, and even more important, what it is not, what is not decide, what it is not designed to do. No false expectation. Then talk about the coolest features, and in the end, we'll go into the 2022. Some stuff we just released in the past couple of months, but kind of like, let's go and see how far we can stretch this. So what is Azure SQL? Azure SQL is a brand that we, Microsoft, have. Azure SQL includes a different families of offerings. We have on the infrastructure as a server service, or IaaS, we have the Azure SQL VMs. Azure SQL VMs are not, I'm sorry to say, like your grandparents' VMs on premises in your own or provided or managed data center, because they have lot more things and more things are coming. For example, did you know that we have a feature in preview to set up a high availability on Azure SQL VMs? We have so many things that you can set up your automated backups. You can even configure the batching, etc., etc. So explore them, but that's infrastructure as a service. On the platform as a service, which is you can see it as a managed service in a way, we have two major product offerings. These are Azure SQL Database, which is the oldest offering that we have in this in the platform as a service, and it comes with three different flavors. Pre-provisioned. This is how we call the traditional Azure SQL database. It's over a decade old. You know it already. Then there is a serverless, where you can define the minimum and the maximum resources, and you can scale up and down and even auto-magically suspend if there are no further connections. And then we use the architecture and not the storage, which is called hyperscale, already for a couple of years. Hyperscale is a brand new architecture with distinct page server, distinct elements, and you can scale a single database up to 100 terabytes. And actually, if you need more, ask Microsoft for more. And we believe that if you are designing a cloud-born application, a new application, you should be considering Azure SQL database with hyperscale architecture for the future. And then in the middle of the screen, you can see Azure SQL Managed Instance. So this is as closest as you can get in a managed service for us, Microsoft, running and hosting and managing your SQL Server. It is as closest as you can get to a managed SQL Server from us, the designers and providers of the cloud and the database. We believe it's best when you are modernizing existing application and or when you need the highest compatibility with SQL Server. It means we'll see different services, but I can throw you at least one of the basic ones. If you need a serious communication between multiple databases, even though we have for I think like 6 years already preview of the um, Elastic, not only Elastic Jobs, but Elastic servers. So with Azure SQL Database, you are able, Elastic queries, you can query one database from another, but it's not trivial and it's still not in general availability. So if you need multiple databases, if you need a better granular control of the whole instance, Azure SQL Managed Instance is something that is good for you. So we target and we work very hard to get an easy migration from on-premises or any other VMs. Even if you go from our competitors, AWS, RDS, we want to provide you as close as possible in a managed environment in the public cloud, a managed SQL server. So we got this native backup restore. You can configure many things. You have um, service broker support, transactional replication. You have the SQL agent, one missing key piece from the SQL DB. We have the DB mail even. We do support CLR. This is a huge, huge thing for a lot of those who are running applications which are based on C# or VBNet code, et cetera, et cetera. We will go into the details in the future slides. So we have two service tiers as of today. One of them is the general purpose. We believe that the most business workloads should be eventually landing into it. So what is it? We have a primary replica, which supports currently up to 16 terabytes of storage, which is a huge space for an instance. And you will have a remote storage for it attached, and we will guarantee the SLA through our service. Um, how do we build the HA? You can think of it as a failover cluster. So this primary replica, it runs the business, and we have a standby pool, uh, pre-provisioned, ready to start your workload. In the case hardware fails, there is a software failure, or we started paging your primary. So if the current primary goes down, we will take one of the instances out of the pool, we'll reattach to your remote storage, your business will carry on. Business critical is a significantly faster and significantly more expensive service tier that for the workloads that require really low latency. We will not use a remote storage, we'll use a locally attached very fast, especially in the newest generation, very, very amazingly fast SSD. And we will provide you the high availability by running a fully fledged synchronous, not asynchronous, availability group with 4 replicas. 1 primary, 2 secondaries, which are you cannot reach out to them, but you can run the queries from the primary and see and verify that they're there and running. And out of the box, you do not have to configure. We will provide you with a readable replica out of the box. We do have a 16 terabyte support currently in preview, and we are slowly but very decisively approaching GA for that. You can have an in-memory on this. There is a question sometimes like, oh, why don't you have a in-memory or LTP or hackathon as it is known, which is great for ETL processes, by the way, for data warehousing. Why don't you put it onto the general purpose? And I always answer, would you like to try to run something that is designed for speed on remote storage? And basically the answer is no, not really. So we do not, as of today. So hardware options, we have the standard series, and this is a rare beast right now because we're running on the limit of the capacity with the popularity. Last Ignite in November, we introduced Premium Series and Premium Series memory optimized with significantly more memory, up to 2.5 times more memory per CPU vCore, and the Intel Ice Lake CPU, which is available only for the data centers, to my understanding. Amazingly fast, I have to say. These are, you can go and choose one of them. If your data center have them, and they're still available, because not a week as of today passes by that somebody will drop me an email like, oh, I saw it last week and it's not there anymore, it's not available. Like, don't wait, because I mean, you all know that more memory for databases is what they precisely need. So we throttle you on the memory, on the log size, on the IO throughput, on the size of temp DB, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the service that we are running is, once again, repeating like that we are focusing on maximum SQL Server compatibility. We think of us as we give you the surface of SQL Server, relational engine, and we take care of everything in rest. We do the full backups, the transactional backup, log backups. We do the automated failovers in the case something happens for high availability. And you always operate on the latest and greatest version of SQL. That is beyond the latest in market. So what is the latest in market SQL Server version available? It's 2019. So we do not run the 2019 beats. We run what is the closest you can get to the next version, which will be, as announced, SQL Server 2022. So you can have this right now. You can, if you try it out, you can even look into the future. We call it the Evergreen version. So I will explain this slide like in 1.5 minutes. If you like to install a new version of SQL Server by yourself, building the high availability, spending, not forgetting to put a probe on the internal load balancer, which can only be done currently with support of PowerShell, which is absolutely amazing. If you like those wonderful, like half-year or a year-long projects for upgrading from one version to another, which will never finish. If you like to install cumulative updates every couple of months and then going back and uninstall them because something didn't work out, or if you like to be awakened at 4 a.m. because your availability group has a problem and you need to fix it, then managed instance is not for you. If you enjoy those things, please stay with Azure SQL VMs or use the SQL Server on other clouds or on premises. You will be very happy. We will provide you the opposite of this experience. Besides that, that we do all these aspects managed, you will never see another upgrade. When we will do the maintenance, we will patch, we will upgrade it for you all in automated fashion on scale. Besides that, we will provide you with newest and some of them Azure-only features. Some of them I will be mentioning, but I'll throw you one key thing. Have you ever heard that we are the only platform as a service that offers you full support for Windows authentication? Yes, you can connect to managed instance by using Windows authentication, but we are very kind of like we are very mindful about the security, and I have a lot of information about that. So this is like we targeting the fully managed DBA productivity. We're not taking the DBA role away. You will have to care about the performance tuning, configuration, database provisioning. You still write the T-SQL. So the role of a modern DBA becomes a more hybrid role because it will not be just a cloud or just on premises. You will deal most probably with the hybrid world of on premises and cloud, and quite possibly multi-cloud as well. So we provisioning, we do the provisioning and scaling without the downtime, besides the obviously the failover moment. We give you the 4 nines of the high availability, which is financially backed up. You can get the premium support, and we have a lot of services, and we add constantly more and more services. We do care about the security in this way, and this comes a lot of time as a question, why is it so? When I provision a managed instance really fast by next, why can't I connect to it? The answer is easy. We provision it only with the private endpoint. We will not give you a public endpoint, because how do you like your, the core of your business, the critical assets being exposed on the internet? I don't think you will like it. So in order, the original design of managed instance was even that you need to provide a virtual machine within the VNet to be able to connect to managed instance, because managed instance is your backend for your application. That was the original design. Yes, you can have a public endpoint, and please put a network security group with Azure Firewall potentially additionally. This is all documented, but do not expose a free connection to the internet. I think we live in the era of being significantly more mindful about security. How much how much do we add into managed instance? So just you don't have to look at it, but in 6 months in the first 6 months of the last year, we provided 13 updates. A lot of them were really security minded. You'll see a lot of Azure AD integration items. We GA put into the general availability machine learning services, which are supported. We introduced a new migration service, which I will be mentioning later, et cetera, et cetera. The last half year of the past year, we introduced another 12 updates. One of them, which is quite escaping the majority of the people, I think it's the Terraform support. If you are provisioning at scale, you're using Terraform, Ansible, or any other service, we have full support for Terraform since September. And all other items, I'll go into a couple of them in a minute. We'll not go into this, but just like an overview, we delivered on average over 2 updates per month in the last year, and we do not expect to deliver you less this year, or at least the features we are about to deliver have a different magnitude of changes. So let's talk about the, I'll stop at the second. Any questions about the architecture, anything you want to discuss, like anything you want to know at this time? Please feel free to pause the question or unmute and ask.
Yeah, I have maybe a quick question. So the kind of workloads you stress are mostly lift and shift scenarios. Is that right?
We have customers who are hosting OLTP and OLAP, we targeting the easy migration from other SQL servers, but you can start a new application on SQL MI right away. So
yeah, so for me, basically, where an application where it might be most interesting might be the old TP workloads with Hackathon available.
mhm.
And also maybe the ETL workloads, because you mentioned already that Hackathon is very useful there as well. But for lift and shift of ETL workloads, I'm still missing the integration services bits, right? So how would you suggest lift and shifting ETL workloads?
So if you are still running integration services, or if you have like a huge backpack, I know companies who are running thousands of them, and it's unreasonable to expect in the next years for them to redesign all of them. There is a possibility of having a integration runtime within the Azure Data Factory, and this integration runtime will host for you the integration services with catalog itself can be and should be placed on managed instance.
Okay,
But
that would have been the question, where to place the catalog. Thank you.
it should be placed on managed instance, and you can also put the master data services. It's not catalogs, but databases on. We require 2019 for that purpose, and the same applies for the reporting services. So you can put the reporting services databases and temp databases on managed instance. Of course, you will need to run the reporting services inside a VM, and you'll have to pay the licensing for it. If you have feedback on this topic, feel free to share with me. I'm very, very interested in learning.
I'm not doing reporting services anyway. I was just curious because you mentioned ETL workloads, whether that would be the right approach.
So ETL, we do have the customers running data warehouses on SQL MI, and yeah, so um, be mindful that first of all, one of the things I do not mention it in the presentation, but in no PaaS service will you have probably ever discussable, but let's say ever a simple recovery model, because we need to provide you point in time restore capabilities. And that is an enemy of a simple recovery model. From the other side, from the high availability, how can you provide a simple recovery model where you truncate the transaction log and put it inside a availability group, which requires to replicate the transaction log between the replicas? So this will be if you are used to, like, I have my ETL running with simple bulk recovery model, which is not inside the availability group, we will not provide you this as of today. We are aware that customers are asking for it, but we do not have solution to offer you today. We have some techniques to improve it, and customers are using those, but there will be impact, of course.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Marcus, you are on mute if you're
Talking about ETL, there is a very simple solution that many customers of mine still use, and it's the bulk insert statement. Do you know if that is supported from which sources? Do you have to use a blob storage then as a source of it?
I mean, if you're using ADF, so data factory, or you're using integration services, the Everest, as it originally was called, you can use a bulk load API without any problem. There is something I would like to show on this
Yeah.
topic. Maybe we can jump to it.
Yeah.
Because
We can. Yeah.
it's kind of like
Yeah.
this is you are asking, and I have
Uh-huh.
so data virtualization with ADLS. After a very long period in private preview, we're happy to share that over a month ago at SQL Beats, we announced data virtualization with ADLS. So what it is, we do support Azure Blob Storage and AWS Gen 2 as the sources for data for the managed instance. You can query the Parquet CSV and JSON by using regular T-SQL. And it opens you like vast opportunities. Forget about 16 terabytes. Go into the petabytes. It will allow you to bring the data very fast into the managed instance. And you can use the same reporting or data processing capabilities that using T-SQL by using managed instance as a kind of a proxy to access your data. These three scenarios that are unlocked, I want, because the last demo is really takes like 15 minutes to show, but I can explain it to you. So the three scenarios are these that we are currently seeing. First of all, you can bring the data much faster. You do not need Azure Data Factory to load the data. Just throw it into the blob storage or AWS Gen 2 and use a T-SQL to load it directly. Or as I mentioned, expand your storage, given, of course, its possibility that, not possibility, it's the fact that you will have a significant delay, especially if you're running business critical with local SSD, and then it's a blob storage remote, maybe even in a different zone within the data center. Then you can use, this is the next two I will be blogging, hopefully in May, they will be published on these scenarios. You can use one storage, especially your ISV, the same storage, you can connect to multiple managed instances. Because you are reading from it, it can serve as like, if you are distributing the data for different instances, you don't have to physically move the data. If you are accepting that this querying of this data is slow, just place it somewhere on AWS Gen 2 or blob storage and query it. Think of this as a confirmed dimension in data warehousing. When you have this dimension, which is connected to multiple or serves for multiple fact tables. And then the last one, my favorite one, is a cold and hot. So what you can do is you can have the same data inside the local SSD, for example, on business critical, and then you can transfer and archive the data into the blob storage or AWS Gen 2. And by putting a view over it, you will query, and the frequently accessed data will be queried really, really fast as you used to. But the data, like, let's say, the archive from 1980s and 1990s for a big company, they are accessed very infrequently. Once a query questions it, queries it, it will go into, let's say, blob storage, and it will take more time, but eventually it will get there. So this is, it's in public preview. You do not have to do anything to try it out. Hugely recommend it. And let me show it to you.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I see. My question was, which SQL statement do you use? And I think the idea is, yeah, you're using open row set, open query.
Yes.
Yeah, the
So
polybase.
you need, of course, to have master key. You need to set up credential, external data source or not. But here is the query. I'm querying it publicly. This is directly from, if you think about Synapse serverless, what is already available, it's in the managed instance, absolutely. So I'm running this query, and you can see even on the execution plan, that's a remote scan. I'm not scanning even physically my local data for it. And I can go and, you know, point to a single Parquet file. I can even traverse a full hierarchy within the ADOS. Here I am doing a recursive formatting for this.
This is really cool. I have a very similar scenario at a customer. Currently, I solve that using a serverless pool in Synapse. But this is a pretty cool scenario. I like that.
what was available, and I was presenting on this. My colleague blogged about this. You could actually do previously before this project. You could use a linked server to establish a connection to Synapse serverless pool, and through this connection, grab the data. We just improve this experience with
Yeah,
with
a little bit.
this. Yeah. So you, for example, can get the folder names, the full file path, and feel free to share. Even drop me an email if you need more. We have a list already with requests, and this public preview is a little top of an iceberg coming at you. Um, so, for example, I can do this order by must be because I fixed this one and I didn't fix this the last time 2 days ago. So
You said we may try it out.
yes,
Do we have to
right
do
now.
anything for that?
No, no.
No. We just
You go
fire up
exec
manage
CSP
instance and use
configure
the syntax.
polybase enabled, very well written documentation by the responsible PM Mladen. So I list all the folders. In this sense, it's all the years and month that I have my data. And we even support, for those of you who are quite a lot metadata driven, we support this beautiful SP described first result set. So I execute the query and I can see that I have 3 columns and I have their data types, ID and the description and all, even collation. So this is a 2012 function. It was implemented as well. Also, it's worth noting that you should be using, this is also 2012 syntax. Traditionally on SQL Server, it's with result sets, but by removing it and providing the schema, you get a better performance because we do not go into the parquet, read, prefetch the data, analyze, and map it. It's better, and we do not assume that it's nvarchar 8000 if you know that there are just 4 characters coming. Also, it's very important, I am confident that you can actually create an external table. So I can go and create an external table which will point to this data. And then my query will still look like a regular T-SQL. I'm reading a T-SQL table, right? But if I look at the execution plan, it's a remote execution. It's a remote scan. It's not on this instance. It's here. It's remote. So this is really a beauty. We are, as of today, as of this part of the public preview, we just allow you reading. We not allow you writing into. But you can use your favorite tool, whatever it would be, besides Azure Data Factory, which I actually love very much. I can also create a statistics. As of today, you need to create them manually and you need to drop them manually. After a failover, this is one of the documented limitation. You will have to, if you have had like maintenance or some reason failover of your managed instance, you have to recreate it. And we do support a creation of statistics on external tables. And then the other one I will not show, but basically um, um, uh, it's a demo I have, and I will document it in the post, hopefully in the next month, of how you create a view on 2 tables, how you transfer the data, and how you delete the data after transferring, etc., etc. But think of this, it's a known scenario, hot and cold data. You can benefit it, and think of it also as a financial tool, because the local data will cost you significantly more than, for example, some blob storage. Okay. Any questions on the ADLS virtualization feature?
I would have one.
Please.
So first of all, pretty cool. I also really like it. Especially, I didn't know about the statistics feature, which I think would also speed up a lot of the queries. So let's say, for example, your example from before, I'm like having a table that has my transactions and I maybe like want to put all the years into blob storage, and then such that the user don't have a notice on that, I would have to put a view over it. So would the query engine also detect, for example, like the user just wants to have like new data and then just goes to the internal table, or is there something like it's always also scanning both?
So in this, it's a great question, and I know that there is so vaccination data, we hold and caught data. So if I do the count, I draw. Oh, no, I'm not. I didn't reconnect it. Give me a second. So
Yeah.
it will depend, of course, on your view definition, right? Because I
Right.
could do this, and I can do, or let's say I say that the real year of Delta file of the archival data, as to say, is this is a
Is Hawk. Oh God, I'm sorry. I think
Yeah, I see.
we'll hear
But
an
maybe
echo.
maybe to quickly interrupt you, I think like what you have here is exactly the example I'm talking about. Like you have a view which combines both local and external data, and so the question would be like, when someone queries the view, does it notice where to look at, or does it query both?
Right now, you will have to define the view with this, like something doing like this, okay?
Ah,
Or
okay.
so you give the view to the understanding.
Mm,
Something we are aware, and this is as much as I can say of today, is that customers want a predicate push down wherever
yep.
possible on the storage level. And of course, with CSV, it's not possible. As for the rest, for Parquet, let's say, stay tuned.
Well, but at least if you had the statistics, then I would assume he might be capable of knowing this.
So you at least you need to have the statistics in order to get a better memory grant, right? Because if you have a huge grant, then you will spin up forever to get yourself through the gateway. But it's kind of like we're very focused on the performance. Please try it out. If you have some feedback, I'm more than happy, and this is my email, to get an email from you with your experiences. The sooner it takes place, the more firepower it gives us to fix it before we go into GA.
Mm. I think it's definitely also a good alternative. Maybe if someone just doesn't have the amount of data to use a Synapse, and they still want to have the whole power of SQL, so that might be a really cool alternative also.
Synapse is absolutely an amazing offering, and it's absolutely, when you have the right size of data, the large terabytes, hundreds of terabytes, petabytes, I do not think that we as a SMP can compete with MPP for processing this data. This is where they really shine. But there are scenarios with lower amounts where SMP can
Yeah.
be very, very
Yeah.
effective.
Well, exactly. Especially like if just the amount of business critical data that has to be there is just low. So then you can put everything into your blob storage, into your data lake for your monthly reporting. And there's only a small fraction of the data, and then you just don't need signups. So that would be exactly the use case I see.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. More questions, please. Feedback, whatever. No?
Maybe how about pricing currently? Do you have any comparison with, for example, let's say the direct competitor on the VM, so SQL Server on VM or so. So
For managed instance versus the VM?
Yeah.
yeah, maybe. So I think like there is no good comparison with Azure SQL because just the feature set is too different. But maybe if you have any indication.
I need to think how to answer it in the correct way. There are cases known to us where you can have a managed instance even cheaper than VM. That's a paradox. There are cases where we do not have the pricing which will correspond to your expectations as we think, and we are very committed to fix that.
Well, that's definitely a diplomatic answer.
Yeah.
But I can speak about this because I've spent a very significant amount of time in this topic and allow me to feel like a little bit flexible on that. And I will challenge you with this. Which precise data center are you talking about? Which VM generation? Which VM series? Which memory configuration? And which AHB, so Azure Hybrid Benefit, are you precisely talking about?
Got it. Okay, so maybe other way around. So just really, I'm just talking about like an indication. So let's say, for example, you have a Synapse, and for example, you have like 500 units on it, and then you can just put it into the calculator, and you know, like, okay, it costs like, let's say, like 3,000 euros a month or whatever, or maybe a little more, obviously. But so the question I'm just thinking about, as I already said, like I think it's a cool replaceable for a Synapse SQL pool. And I'm just thinking about, okay, like how about the pricing? So is it with a comparable performance? Is it like really much cheaper, or is it maybe comparable from the price? That's what I'm thinking about.
Once we progress to general availability, we will be looking at the comparison because it's not easy to do it. We can't do this comparison, of course, let's say on TPCH or TPC-DS data sets, but then we will start arguing, is it 1 terabyte, is it 3, is it 10, is it 100? And I think that the true answer, the honest answer, it will depend on the size. So MPP will shine and be significantly more efficient on the larger sizes. When it goes to lower sizes, I believe that ADLS virtualization can be a candidate to fill the gap for the customer.
Got it. So definitely my next task will then just to play a little bit around with the Azure pricing calculator and just to get an overview about it.
I think you will, we did this for ourselves within my team, and we arrived to the conclusion, the honest conclusion, it will depend on so many factors, right?
Yeah, right.
And even for the decision that you will be driving, is it the speed that you care mostly about? Is it the TCO that you will care mostly about? So it's if we will put the all the things in front of us, all the little details, it will depend on a particular business decision maker what path will be chosen.
Yep.
Sorry, I don't have this like a simple answer, yes or no for you.
Yeah, of course. No, I totally understand. So, but you just gave me the right things to think about. So that's also sufficient for me.
And I dropped my email in the chat. Feel free to drop me an email with reference that we have spoken in this meeting. and I'm happy to exchange more thoughts on this. If there are no more comments, should we continue, or should I say start with the session? Because Benjamin promised you the whole 84 slides I have, and we're at number 16 as of now. like let's be gentle, right, Marcus?
Yeah.
No worries. So I'm just want to explain the advantages of SQL MI itself. It's a we give you these 4 nines of an SLA, and we back them up financially. You provision, you control, you configure it. You basically you design it and tune it the way you need to. And I will be repeating this, but your data is totally sacred for us. We have so many different mechanisms and services which will help you. Threat protection. By design, and this is when you are comparing a VM versus a MI, please put it under the same conditions. Like put a TDE on it. And don't forget that the moment you put a TDE, you will not have an instant file initialization working anymore, because data is encrypted, cannot grab just some pieces, chunks of the storage and override it. This will be a security failure. We support the vulnerability assessment, etc., etc., etc. All this stuff you used to. And security features are always our highest priority. We get as close as it's possible, and we keep on improving. But some noticeable limitations are listed here on the slides. Oh, sorry, this one got reduced when I copied over. We do support trace flags, something that other PaaS services do not, and some of the necessary tuning is there. SSIS catalogs can and should be hosted if you're running data factoring. We actually, we do even support for you to place your integration service packages not only on the SSIS catalog, but also on the file storage on Azure Files. And you can do the package storage. I don't know why you should, but if you're like your solution, which you cannot change, requires that we do support it. You can place the reporting services, master data services as well. And I mentioned that we do support CLR. If you have a custom C#, for example, code, you can have it. We do support Service Broker. We do have a complete agent running for you. There are some exceptions and limitations, but for huge 95 or 99% of the customers, they are more than happy with what we are offering. DB Mail, don't forget to open the respective ports, but it is supported. You can take the copy-only backups of your databases. And I want to mention that we do support, for the future, not yet released version, we will allow you even take the backup from the managed instance and restore it on SQL Server 2022. That's a huge thing. Cross-database queries, like you are used to. Don't forget the linked servers. Amazing functionality will allow you to do a lot of things. Distributed transactions, fully supported. You need to set up the SQL trust groups. They're used for a couple of things, but we do support them. We are in a public preview, but we do support different topologies and replication, not only to, but also from managed instance. You can replicate away your data. This one was mentioned. There are some little caveats for general purpose. The maximum size of a single data file is 8 terabytes. just because kind of like this discussion was so interesting, we spent a lot of time. I just want to find one feature and talk about it. It's this one. This is our latest cool kid on the block. This is a link feature for SQL Managed Instance. And I'll show you the demo in a minute. I'm not going over more than 5 minutes, but you can grab a database on any SQL Server running anywhere, starting with 2019 as of today, and replicate it to managed instance and do the reading from managed instance. For example, I don't know, for your ML or for Power BI or for Synapse, for Data Factory, or you can migrate seamlessly online to managed instance with this link feature for managed instance. It's a hero for 2022 SQL Server. So here I have my favorite demo. I have here a SQL Server 2019 and I have a managed instance. I have here, let's delete it. No, I won't delete it because I know I have provisioned, created a new database, and you can see I do not have on managed instance a database with the same name. Oh, I do. Let's delete it then. Give me a second. Take a second. So I did a full backup, overriding the existing data. Don't do it anywhere, even on test. Just for the demo purposes, I'm doing this. If you will take a Management Studio 18.11.1 and ignore what you see here, you can right-click on it and select Azure SQL Managed Instance link, and then you can either replicate or fail over your database. So let's do this, replicate a database. You go click, some requirements. I'll say a word in a minute. Oh, I did something. I didn't delete my demo. I'm sorry for that, but we will easily resolve it by deleting it. So we are managing the technology. Yeah. Right now I will need probably to do try again. We're managing the distributed availability group technology by improving it a little bit. And we will simply, I will need to log into my account on Azure, select the right subscription, select the resource group, then select the managed instance. It will take some time, in my case, for many subscriptions, many resource groups, and even more managed instances. And every time I do some change, it will refresh, release them. And we are aware that, yeah, we need to do, and we will do some improvements in this experience. But if you have just a couple of them, it will be really fast. So right now, with designing the experience, you can go click next, and it will be established. And you can start reading from the this managed instance right away. And contrary to log shipping service, log replay service, we do not have a limit of just 36 hours. You can keep it virtually forever. So we allow you to change a couple of things, some of the names, but I can go next, finish. It will simply do the seeding, called direct seeding in availability group, and in a couple of seconds, SQL My Demo database will be registered on Azure as an asset and will be successfully placed on my managed instance. From that moment on, I can go and start reading the data from it. So while I'm doing this, while it still does the direct seeding, because I'm replicating from Australia into the East United States as of the moment right now. So it takes some time. I can, in the meantime, while it does, I will create a table and start putting the data into it. So create some table and start hammering it with transactions. And you've seen I have had actually no no database at all on the managed instance side. Let's make sure we are connected to it. Yes, it's the architecture of managed instance. And if I'm able right now to run this query successfully, that means that it already landed. Let's wait a second. Here we go. It's here. It has already landed. So I can go and see how transactions are being replicated to my managed instance. 7,000 transactions, 8,000. So it runs pretty well, even though it's a quite a long geo-replication. And once I'm finished, I just need to click on my, if I want to finish migration, I will just select the failover database. We'll select one or multiple databases I am failing over, sign into Azure again. I already pre-signed, so I don't have to go through the whole multi-factor authentication process. Select the subscription and select if I do the forced failover or planned failover, like you would do in a regular availability group. Okay, I will need to stop the workload. Yeah, okay, I canceled it because otherwise I would get like, oh, you guaranteeing that it's there are no writes, but we will even go as far as we will compare the log sequence numbers on both sides to make sure that once you are failing over, we switch from asynchronous to synchronous distributed availability groups. We verify the log sequence number and then we do the failover. If I did something wrong, it will fail. We'll do up to 3 attempts, but that's basically it. This is, and to give you an idea, we are committed to deliver full support starting from 2016. It will not come soon. 2016 will come sooner than 2017. For 2017, you will have to wait some time. It's in our pipeline, but will come later. And this is also one key thing I would love to share with you. Even though right now we just support Enterprise Edition, we do think, and we are committed to deliver for other editions as well. I have a lot of slideware, but oh, you see, actually it's a cool demo happened. So the first attempt failed. On the first attempt, the LSNs were not confirmed, but on the second attempt, we successfully verified that all information was replicated. So we didn't need a third attempt, and we successfully executed the failover. So if I now go into my managed instance and run one last query, I promise. If I run the query on updatability, because you know on the secondary replicas of availability groups, it's read only. Right now it became read and write. So I successfully migrated my database. That's about it. Thank you so much. I could go probably for hours, but I'm very much open for any questions and any feedback you have for me.
Wow.
As anticipated, I would say a lot of content, Nico.
Very cool. Yeah.
And you're one of the few speakers that are really believable when you say you could go on for hours.
It's kind of like, because there are cool things like the Windows authentication, for example, how we implemented it, like by syncing the trust from the Active Directory. And we just, some cool engineering stuff that our engineers do. They just, they tweak the managed instance in recognizing the encrypted Kerberos ticket format, and then managed instance will say, oh, that should be, if this user is authenticated, it should be in the Kerberos realm that is synced. And if it is, we will simply exchange this ticket for Azure AD token, and this way you are authenticated not for just this managed instance, or if you are using linked server to jump through multiple managed instance, you will be using no more Kerberos ticket, but Azure AD token. So you will do the double hope, triple hope whatsoever with this.
Wow. Really amazing. I know that a lot of people, what they like best about Managed Instance is that it gives you SQL Server agent. Are there any restrictions that come to your mind when talking
Yes.
about SQL agent?
There are specifics. On the top of my head is the the complicated management of the users and ownership gets some more complications.
Oh,
But let me find it. I know that I have this somewhere. Or at least we have it definitely in the docs. We have customers running hundreds of them, hundreds of managed instances, ISVs. So this one is user must be directly mapped to Azure ID server principal to create, modify, execute SQL agent jobs. Not impossible, but if you do not use Azure AD, well,
your fault.
If you're using this old feature, idle CPU, which I have never ever seen anyone using in the last decade or so, notifications are not are partially not supported, but you can work around. There are documented workarounds. Yeah, managed instance cannot access external resources. But we have in public preview right now support for user-defined managed identity itself. And I'm not sure if the SQL agent can take advantage of it or not. If you are interested, drop me an email. I'll get you an answer of this. We do not support CMD exec. We do not have alerts. We do not support event log. These are the key limitations that we have, and they are all documented.
Yeah, I mean, CMD exec, yeah, no problem with that.
We do not expose the underlying service. That's some customers constantly keep getting back and they're like, oh, but I really need this PowerShell. And my typical reaction is like, why don't you fire an Azure automation with PowerShell? That think in the modern times as, if you really need something that uses CMD exec, you do not need a to pay SQL Server license. Fire up a VM with that and run your, legacy workloads comfortably as you are used to.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Very nice.
And as far as I know, shell stuff, lots of stuff on instances also works from the DBA tools, which is really nice.
This is a link I posted. This is a series of articles I'm writing and co-writing. You'll find amazing resources. Some of them, it's absolutely amazing stuff. I would never to come to, like my friend and colleague Vitor Tomás, another Portuguese, written. It's like how you can test the connectivity, like crazy stuff. And there is the last thing I want to keep on saying last, but there is a thing on ETL I wanted to share because your questions were on ETL. So if you want to, if you want to do fast ETL for data warehousing, I recommend something is simply use TempDB. On general purpose service tier, where you most likely to land, you have everything in the full recovery mode, right? So which database in simple recovery model is TempDB? We give you 24 gigabytes of this fast SSD per each CPU core on general purpose. It's documented, we do not talk much about it. So you'll get fast SSD you'll get simple recovery model, and you'll get delayed durability. It's a feature we have since 2014 to speed up the workloads. And if you have a repeatable, that's the key, not something unique, because failover and tempdb information is lost. Use this tempdb as a staging landing zone. It's absolutely amazing. If you have 4 cores, we'll give you 96 gigabytes of fast SSD. It's really, really cool. And do not waste it. Use the tempdb for this purpose.
Wow, that's really a gift.
It is, because if you think about something like, let's say, 32 CPU vCores managed instance, it gives you 600 gigabytes of fast storage.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you can land information really, really fast into MI, and then you can you can do ELT in this way, not ETL. You transform and you write only the relevant bits.
Yeah, I have exactly the customers that do all their ETL in SQL that will really love this. Yeah.
So on this address I shared, I have, let me just open it to verify if it's correct. Should be.
Yeah, it did work. I took a look.
Yes. So the article, improving data load performance on general purpose tier. I have precisely like a different even explanation with all the stuff. And another thing is scale up your data files. If you see them really slow, you're on, as of today, and things are changing in the future, but as of today, if you have a small file, like under 128 gigabytes, you'll get this throughput. If you just resize it, make it bigger, you'll get a faster speed. Most of our customers are not aware of it. And they also are accustomed to instant file initialization, which I already mentioned, which we cannot have because we have a TDE. You can remove TDE encryption, but I will say, are you not of like making your customer data less secure? I mean, in the current age, this is not something not to do. But you can see different methods, and something you take 11 minutes, you can do in 3 seconds, which is, potentially might help you win the customer.
Yeah. Or 700. Yeah, that's a difference. Great. Yeah. Ooh. Great. So you really changed my mind
Nico.
about managed instance.
Marcus, I don't believe you, but thank you anyway.
you always get me thinking of where I'm using either a SQL database. I'm not using VMs at the moment, and I hope it stays that way. But where I'm using a SQL database, where maybe a managed instance might be of use or might improve things.
A question, really, because I'm very much part of my projects are really on the pricing. So, did you know that or are you using vCore VMs or DTU-based VM databases? Sorry, not VMs.
Some both.
Okay,
I'd say.
So
I'd say a fair share of both.
By default,
and even a fair share of serverless, but.
Okay, so by default, if you're using pre-provisioned Azure SQL database with vCores, their pricing for managed instance should be the same.
Okay, so in that case, it might be worth switching to a managed instance to get more control, to have more features. Like, for example, accessing storage account files without having to use Synapse serverless pool.
Yeah.
And there he just dropped a statement about pricing.
I don't want to get fired. Tarek, I don't want to get fired, but what I said, no, I'm kidding. Yes, I did drop, but this is a fair comparison because if you go to the Azure calculator that's available there, the pricing for SQL DB and for in the same region under same conditions, when you are using the CPU vCores, because that's a kind of like a direct model, you can compare and it should be around, they should be the same. If you're using the same point in time restore, long-term retention, etc., it should be the same.
Well,
But
everything's fine. I just wanted to tickle you.
I know.
Just kidding.
Thank you.
That's what we're here for.
Come
Challenging
on.
Nico a little bit.
Actually,
Getting
like
lots of
one
information.
one day I would love to come to Berlin. I love Berlin. I know Berlin a little bit. Would present in person, and then after this meeting, like I did in some user groups in Germany, we would go for a beer or two and discuss this stuff and tickle and pick on each other. This is,
Going for beer might happen, and as soon as we're having in-person events again, you're sure to be invited.